Hey everyone, and thanks for joining me again today. Recently, I've been watching some videos online, and some people are giving some tips on some of the equipment that they use to maintain their knives. So I thought I'd just do a video on the items that I use to maintain my collection. So that's why you see this great big mess of things in front of you today. Generally, the most maintaining that you do involves either sharpening or cleaning. You generally don't have to fix anything. Nowadays, most manufacturers have warranties that cover pretty much everything. So you don't really have to worry about fixing things unless you really want to, or unless you're modifying, such as disabling safeties, that type of thing. So generally, most of your equipment centers around disassembling your knife to maintain it. That is to clean it, lubricate it, put it back together again, and sharpen it. And that's really the vast majority of the things that I have are for. So I'm going to skip over a lot of the stuff that most people already have, like screwdrivers, with the exception of, I'm going to show you this little kit. This is a great little kit. One of the things I should also mention too is this actually comes out of my gun cleaning kit. If you're a gun guy and you have guns and tools to clean guns, you're 90% of the way there. Most of the stuff I use for both because it's generally the same types of materials. So this kit, your smaller screwdrivers, I'm actually missing one here, and your basic screwdriver and needle nose pliers and whatnot. One thing to note too, and you'll probably know this already if you're a gun guy, but the way to tell a good screwdriver, a good flathead, is if it's curved on the outside like that. It doesn't have straight sides. They're more designed to fit right into the slot better, and they won't pop out and strip out your screw. Okay, so I have a kit like that. Obviously, you're going to need Allen keys of both standard and metric. Now, the big thing in knives is the Torx, and I used to use these guys, which are the ones with the interchangeable bits, and then the bits go in something like this, and they go inside here somehow. It's just, I really, didn't like that, because I was never putting the bits back, and then I'd lose bits, and it was just driving me crazy. So I have a few of these kicking around all over the place. I found a place on eBay, actually got these out of China. Way better. Just get a complete set of Torx. I'm not sure which these ones are. Torx, I mean the finest one is, it's not even marked here. But this is like a super tiny T4, 5, somewhere in there, all the way up to T10. Basically get the biggest, oh, here we go. Yeah, T4 to T10. That's what this kit was. And it was like, I don't know, maybe $7. You can't go wrong. And you don't have to worry about interchanging bits and whatnot. They've got the kind of spinny top, so you can put it right in your hand and spin it one-handed. Makes your life a whole lot easier. And like I said, you can get these on eBay or Amazon. Those Chinese kind of style shops. Great little investment. I also use tweezers just to hold small parts. These tweezers have a little clamp on them, so I can put like a tiny little bolt or a nut or something in there, and then I can clamp it closed and hold it. And I don't have to keep putting pressure on the tweezers themselves. Something that allows you to hold small parts. Important. I also use this all the time. If you don't have a bench vise, just a hobby vise like this is perfect. I actually really like this one. I like this one more than my bench vise, just simply because I can loosen it and put it on any angle that I want. When I'm stropping, I actually put my strop in this, and then I can use both hands to strop. It works great. If you use a Lansky system, you can put your Lansky in here, and that's how I did it. And it just holds your clamp, and you can sharpen like that. A little vise like this is worth its weight in gold, guys. Really, seriously, look into getting them. They're not that expensive. You can get them for 20, 30 bucks maybe. Clamp onto anything, anywhere, your kitchen table, if your wife lets you. Fantastic little thing. I use it all the time. It's probably my most used tool to tell you the truth. Okay, so now we're kind of getting more into cleaning. Old toothbrush. I mean, you need an old toothbrush. I wouldn't recommend using the your gun cleaning style little brass brushes. Just an old toothbrush, soft bristles. This will help get all the gunk out of your knives. Okay, all the chemicals that I use. Okay, this one I probably use the most. This is Goo Gone. Works really good. I actually use this. I should actually show you these first. The shop towels, blue towels, I always have these. I use them all the time. I used to use rags, but my wife really hates the smell of all this stuff. So I rather than washing dirty rags full of solvents and whatnot, I just get these shop rags. They work great. They don't leave any kind of fibers on your knives or anything. They're a little bit more expensive than paper towels. I think you can get these for $1.50 or $2 or maybe $3. I'm not even sure for a roll. But I mean, they work great. They're really strong. Really highly recommend them. So for cleaning knives, this is my main go-to, Goo Gone. It's not very. It smells kind of like lemon citrus. It's not anything like Goof Off. This is the heavy duty stuff to get like stickers and oil and tar. It says adhesive glue. It's like more of a solvent, and this is a very mild solvent that's more of a cleaner. In fact, I can kind of show you how it works. I've got my my Sebenza here, and as you can see, the blade's got some. You know, I've been using it. You know, and fingerprints and all that kind of stuff. And when I'm doing knife reviews, I'll almost always keep one of these blue towels with some Goo Gone on it nearby, just to wipe fingerprints off. So I just give it a couple of light squirts, and like I said, it doesn't smell bad at all. It smells like citrus. And like I said, it's not as strong as the Goof Off, Goo Gone, it's called, this stuff, but it works great. It's, you know, gets all the nasties off, all the fingerprints in the first swipe. If you've got anything sticky or you've been cutting food or whatever, it takes that off very nicely as well, and it's very good on every finish that I've seen so far. Even, you know, micarta and plastics and all that kind of stuff, it's pretty much safe for everything. I haven't come across anything that it's harmful to. Whereas Goof Off, I would be very reluctant to use it on stuff like, you know, micarta G10, anything like that. It is really good if you've got like stickers or glue or that kind of stuff on your knife. This stuff works great. It does stink like the bejesus. So, you know, use it in a well ventilated room and all that. But generally, I can do what I need with Goo Gone. Highly recommended. The rest of it is also stuff I use for guns. Bust rust. If anything's rusty, this JetGo Bust Rust works great for removing rust. I have some high carbon blades that I want to get the rust off. I use this, maybe a like a scrubby pad, one of those green scrubby pads and this Scotch-Brite, I guess you'd call them. This works amazingly well. So I have used that from time to time, just removing surface rust. WD-40. I don't recommend using this as a lubricant. You can. I just find that it gets gummy, so that's why I don't use it. I use it more as a cleaner. I don't use it a lot anymore, but it's more of a cleaner, and I usually wipe it off as much as possible after using it. Good old-fashioned gun scrubber. This is basically a degreaser. It's really good for blowing all the gunk out of your gun or your knife. It's basically brake cleaner, so it is caustic. Don't get it on any paint or anything like that. It's it removes paint beautifully. I've learned that the hard way on one of my guns. But it's a degreaser. It removes all the old oil and whatnot from your knives and guns. Works great. Highly recommend it. This is what you'd use to remove all the old stuff before reapplying new stuff. This is my go-to gun stuff, and I have used it on knives before. This is a kind of a 3-in-1. It's called G96 Complete Gun Treatment. Cleans, lubricates, and protects. This is how I treat all my guns with this stuff, and it works very well for keeping everything rust free. Some of my knives that have the high carbon steel, I'll use this stuff on it as well. Just a very light coating, again on the blue rag, just to very lightly brush it on and put a very uber thin amount of lubricant over the entire knife. Now my main lubricant is this stuff. This is tuf-glide. This doesn't really gum up at all. They say it's a micro bonding dry lubricant. Has a very nice applicator tip. You can put, like, basically when I this is what I use to lubricate my pivots, almost exclusively. I'll clean them all down, wipe them up, and then put one drop either side of the pivot, and that's plenty. Works great. Smells kind of funny, but it works very good. It's not very expensive. This is the stuff that's recommended by just about any knife person, and for good reason. This is really good stuff, and I highly recommend it. tuf-glide. Okay, now also for applying stuff, always keep these handy. Q-tips, I use them all the time for everything involving knives and guns. Just super handy. You have to be very careful with them because they can leave bits of fiber. So you got to use them very carefully, but if you're careful with them, it's great for getting into those hard to reach places. Great for cleaning if you don't want to disassemble your knife. Here's well, you know, I've been EDCing my Sebenza for a while now. I bet you I can kind of show you how. You know, if you don't want to disassemble it, you can usually get in there with a Q-tip and get it cleaned out. It works great. It's also good for applying small sheens of oil. But I use a lot of Q-tips. Okay. So now we're getting to the kind of meat and potatoes. Checking the edge. I've used a few different things, from a jeweler's loop. This is a 30 power one. It's basically a very strong magnifying glass. This is a 20 to 40 power pocket microscope with a little light, so you can put that over your blade and look. And upstairs I actually have a USB microscope that Kylie Harris Knives and Stuff recommended, and I use that a bit now too. Although it's a bit labor intensive to set up. I'd have to, in order to use that, I have to, basically relocate. So these ones are a lot more user friendly. When I'm sharpening a knife, generally I just use this eye loop to check my blade. Just to give you an idea how well it works. I don't know if my lighting is going to be right, but as you can see, it allows you to really check your edge for any kind of nicks or burrs that you might not see with the naked eye. And these, again, I get most of my little bits and pieces like this off of eBay. If you look around, you can get them for next to nothing if you're willing to wait for the shipping from China. If you want to pay a little bit more and get made in USA, that's by all the power to you. But like I said, I'm cheap. So now on to the more important bits of sharpening. This is really the main part of maintaining your knife. Lubrication is really important, but you're probably even going to be sharpening, or at least stropping, more often than you're even lubricating. So there's quite a few different routes you can go. Everybody's familiar with the bench stone. This is just a cheap Norton stone. You can get very expensive Chazera stones or Japanese whetstones. There's a whole art form involved in that, and I'm not nearly skilled enough to do it yet. It's a skill set that I'd like to learn one day, but you know what? I just don't have the time or patience right now. Maybe once I'm retired or something, and I have some extra time, I would look into getting them. But this is an old Norton stone that's been with me for many, many, many years, and as you can see by all the battle scars and whatnot on it, doesn't get a lot of use anymore. This really stopped getting used when I got my first sharpening system, which is the Lansky. And for anybody who's just getting into knives or starting with the collections, highly recommend this. Great system. This is how it works. If I can get it open. You can see all sorts of places on YouTube that have these. Go check them out. Great system. This is how I was talking about that mini vise. I would just clamp this vise into the mini vise, and then work one side of the blade, flip everything over, put it back in the vise, clamp it down, and work this side. Some people are perfectly fine using it, just holding onto it like a pistol grip. I found I got a lot more control putting it into a vise, which is why I really liked that particular vise. So this is you can get this set for minus the diamond stone and all that for in around the $40 range. This is a very, very wise investment. You can get a hair shaving beautiful edge. You don't need any experience. Lansky is a great system, guys. Fantastic system. Highly recommended. And I would say once you get a Lansky or get into putting a really decent edge on your knife, you get into something like this, which is a strop. Stropping makes a huge difference in your edge, guys. Huge difference. This is how you go from hair shaving sharp to hair whittling sharp. This is how you get a crazy, scary sharp edge. When you get a strop, make sure that it's a good, solid, well-made strop. The high quality leather, horse leather is generally the standard because it's a little bit more hard than cow leather, but cow leather certainly will work. And get yourself a high quality honing compound. The green stuff, I only use the green stuff. I know some people use the white stuff and ultra fine stuff. I find that I get just good enough results with the green. But highly recommended to get a good strop. As well, I consider a part of the tools would be a good light, just to, when you're, to be able to check inside and, really, take a look at your knife without having to disassemble it. One thing I should also mention is you should also have a very good plan when you're taking your knife apart. I have one of the magnetic trays to put all the bits and pieces in. You should have a game plan before you start taking your knife apart so you don't lose parts. Because, I mean, if you lose something like a pivot pin, your knife is down until you get a replacement, and they can be tough to get. So you want to be very, very careful when you're taking your knife apart that you have a game plan of putting it back together again. Another important thing for sharpening for me is a good, nice, thick Sharpie. The way that you use this is you actually color the edge of your knife so that you know that when you're sharpening, that you're getting that entire edge bevel, because it'll remove that Sharpie as you're sharpening, and it's how you get your angle just right for the edge bevel that you want. And finally, this is the sharpening system that I use. This is the Edge Pro Apex. You've got a bunch of different stones. I find this works really good. It does have a few flaws, inherent flaws, but I'm just unwilling to spend $400 on a wicked edge. This one was expensive enough. I think it's about 125 to 150, 200 bucks, depending on the options that you get. I mean, it's good for what it is. You have to be super careful with this system, because when you're sharpening, you're actually placing your knife here, and I have scratched up a few knives because as you're sharpening, all the grit will get onto here, and then it'll scratch up your knife blade. So you always have to tape off your blade as well. But it does put an excellent edge on your knives. It is highly recommended. Now, as far as sharpening, another thing that I do use is sandpaper. This is the wet dry automotive stuff. You can go to any automotive place, get the wet dry. I go 400 to 2000 grit, and pretty much everything in between. This is how I put my own convexes on knives. And this is also how I maintain a convex. Usually with the 1000 to 2000 grit on my Falnevin. That's how I'll work that. And the way that I do that is I actually use my strop, and I'll fold it over my strop, and then clamp it into my clamp, and then just basically strop my knife on the sandpaper. And that will, because of the flex in the leather, that will give you a nice convex. You have to be very, very careful when you're using sandpaper on knives, obviously. It's very, very easy to ruin your edge. But as long as you're careful, that's how I do it, and it seems to work well for me. Really the last thing that I do, and you might enjoy this because this is probably going to be the only time that you'll ever see this, is, or at least on my channel, is I always keep newsprint flyers nearby, and I use it for testing my edge. One thing that you guys might note is that I never cut paper the way some people do. You can just assume that all my knives will easily slice paper, because I just maintain the edges on all my knives, and all of them are hair shaving sharp. But I do use paper for testing my edge. When I'm stropping especially, it's a very good way to find any imperfections in your edge. If it hangs up anywhere, if there's any little part of the blade that you're noticing won't slice cleanly. This one's pretty good still. But I do use it as a tool. It's basically an indicator of sharpness. And that's probably one of the only times you'll see me cut paper on my channel. I don't use printer paper or anything like that just because it's a little bit thick, so I don't really get the fineness that I'm looking for in judging my edge, as well as newsprint. I mean, how many flyers do you get in the mail for free every day? I'd rather just cut stuff that I'm going to be throwing in the recycling anyway. And the only thing that's missing, and I was looking for it all over, I'm going to have to get a new one, is I also use Loctite, blue Loctite in particular. Blue is it's the not permanent, but it's not the lightest. It's the medium strength. And that's what I use for things like your pivot pins. Once your pivot pin is set to where you want it, so there's no blade play, but the blade still moves quite easily as far as tightness. You can Loctite it, and it won't back itself out over time. It's basically just like a thread locker. The blue kind is the best because it's not permanent. It's also good for like if you've got like the Kershaw style knives where they've got that sliding safety. You can Loctite that in place so that it won't move ever. So it's another good thing to have. And really, that's about it that I use. I know that I've got a lot of stuff here to take in, but basically, I wanted to show you what I use to maintain knives, and I'd love to hear any comments or any ideas on what you might use that might be a better system. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll talk to you soon.